an alien woman. I will save you, but in return, I will take my offspring from you. The earthquake had started 3 minutes ago. In 3 more minutes, he would be dead. But that's not the terrifying part of this story. The terrifying part is what happened next, what she demanded, what he discovered about the price of salvation when it comes from hands that aren't quite human. You see, some rescues aren't mercy, they're transactions. And some saviors, well, they collect debts in ways you never imagined. The mountain trail collapsed beneath Marcus like a house of cards in a hurricane. One moment, he was photographing the aurora over the Alaska wilderness. The next, he was tumbling down a cliff face with half the mountain following him. Rocks, the size of cars, bounced past him like deadly hail. His camera equipment scattered into the darkness below. Above him, the earthquake kept tearing the mountain apart. Boulders crashed down around him, close enough to feel their wind. The ledge groaned under his weight. "Help!" he screamed into the frozen night. His voice echoed off the canyon walls and died in the darkness. "Somebody help me!" But who would hear him? He was 50 miles from the nearest town, alone in the Alaskan wilderness. His satellite phone lay somewhere in the rubble below. The aftershocks were getting worse. Each tremor loosened more rocks, sent more debris tumbling past his refuge. The ledge was already splitting beneath his boots. This was how Marcus Chen would die. Alone, broken, forgotten. "I don't want to die," he whispered to the stars above. "Please, I'm not ready." That's when the earthquake stopped. The sudden silence was more terrifying than the chaos had been. Marcus could hear his own ragged breathing, could hear his heart hammering against his broken ribs. And then he heard something impossible. Footsteps coming down the vertical cliff face above him. "Hello, Marcus Chen?" called a woman's voice, musical and strange. Marcus looked up and saw light descending toward him, not the harsh beam of a rescue helicopter, but something softer, more beautiful. Blue-white radiance that seemed to move with purpose. Within that light, he saw her. She was impossibly beautiful, tall and graceful, with silver hair that flowed like liquid mercury, and skin that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were deep blue with flecks of gold that moved like living fire. She wore no winter clothing, no climbing gear. Instead, flowing robes that shifted color like an oil slick somehow kept her warm in the sub-zero temperatures. "Who are you?" Marcus managed to gasp. "I am Zara of the ethereal realm," she said, settling onto the narrow ledge with perfect balance. Somehow there was room for both of them where moments before Marcus had barely fit alone. "And you, Marcus Chen, are about to die." "How do you know my name?" "I know many things about you," Zara replied, studying him with those impossible eyes. "I know you're a photographer who seeks beauty in dangerous places. I know you have no family except a sister in Seattle. I know you've spent your life alone, afraid to form deep connections." Marcus stared at her, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. "You're not human." "No," Zara agreed. "I am not." Another section of the ledge cracked away. Marcus felt himself slip closer to the edge. "Help me," he pleaded. "Please." Zara tilted her head, considering. "I can save you, Marcus Chen, but salvation comes with a price. Anything. I'll pay anything. Will you?" Zara's smile revealed teeth that were too sharp, too perfect. "Even if the price is your freedom, your future, your very soul?" "Yes," Marcus said without hesitation. Death was seconds away. "Whatever you want. Then we have a bargain." Zara said, reaching out with one pale hand. I will save your life, and in return, you will give me children. You will be my mate, my husband, bound by laws older than your civilization. Children? Marcus's mind reeled. You want me to marry you? I want you to serve me, Zara corrected. My people have an ancient law. Those who save a life may claim that life in return. You will come to my world, take your place as my consort, and provide me with offspring to strengthen my bloodline. The ledge gave another ominous crack. I don't understand. There is no time for understanding. Zara cut him off. Choose now. Death in darkness or life in my service. Choose, Marcus Chen, before the mountain chooses for you. Marcus looked down at the abyss below, then back at this impossible woman with her impossible offer. I choose life. Zara's smile widened. Then you are mine. She pressed her palm against his forehead, and Marcus felt electricity surge through his body. The pain in his ribs vanished. Strength flowed back into his limbs, and then they were rising, lifting away from the crumbling ledge into the star-filled sky. Marcus watched Alaska shrink beneath them as Zara somehow carried them both through the air. Above them, a massive ship materialized out of the aurora itself, sleek, silver, beautiful beyond description. They passed through the ship's hull like it was made of mist, emerging into a space that defied physics. The walls curved and flowed like living tissue, pulsing with soft bioluminescent light. Everything was organic curves and impossible architecture. Welcome to the Nexus, Zara said as their feet touched the deck. Welcome to your new existence. Marcus looked around in wonder and growing horror. Where are we going? To Ethereal, my homeworld. The journey will take 7 weeks. Zara moved to what appeared to be a living control console, her fingers dancing over surfaces that responded with waves of light. Time enough for you to adjust to your circumstances. What if I can't adjust? What if I change my mind? Then you die, Zara said matter-of-factly. The bond that saved your life can be severed at any time. Your heart would simply stop. Marcus felt trapped in a nightmare. But as the ship began to move, carrying him away from everything he'd ever known, he reminded himself that he was alive. Whatever came next, at least he was alive. 7 weeks later. The planet Ethereal was nothing like Earth. 3 moons hung in a lavender sky, casting everything in shifting shades of purple and gold. The architecture was all flowing curves and impossible spirals, as if the buildings had grown rather than been constructed. Marcus had spent the journey learning about his new captors. The Ethereals were ancient, powerful, and desperately trying to avoid extinction. Their pursuit of perfection had led them to genetic stagnation. They could no longer reproduce successfully without outside DNA. Your species is primitive but genetically diverse, Zara had explained during one of their conversations. Your DNA can provide the variation we need to survive. Now, standing in what Zara called the sanctuary, a palatial complex where he would live, Marcus tried to come to terms with his new reality. This will be your home, Zara said, leading him through rooms that were beautiful and comfortable and utterly alien. You will want for nothing. Food, entertainment, companionship, all will be provided. Companionship? There are others like you. 17 humans who have been saved and brought here to serve similar purposes. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. You've done this before. Many times. It is the only way my people can survive. That evening, Marcus met the other humans. They lived in a separate wing of the sanctuary. well cared for, but clearly prisoners. Some had been there for years, their eyes hollow with resigned despair. Others seemed to have adapted, speaking proudly of their half-ethereal children. "Don't let them break you," whispered a woman named Sarah, who'd been there the longest. "Remember who you were." It's the only way to stay sane, but staying sane became harder as the days passed. Zara visited him regularly, and despite everything, Marcus found himself drawn to her. She was brilliant, centuries old, with knowledge that spanned galaxies. She told him stories of worlds beyond imagining, of civilizations that had risen and fallen before humans learned to walk upright. And slowly, carefully, she began to seduce him. "I know this isn't what you wanted," she said one evening as they walked through the sanctuary's garden. Alien flowers bloomed around them, their petals shifting through spectrums of color that human eyes had no names for. "But perhaps it doesn't have to be a prison. Perhaps we could find something meaningful together." "Meaningful?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "I'm breeding stock to you, nothing more." "You are the key to my people's survival," Zara corrected. "That makes you precious beyond measure." Despite his anger, Marcus felt something stirring in his chest. Was it just loneliness? Stockholm Syndrome? Or something more? Their relationship deepened over the following months. Zara showed him wonders that took his breath away, ancient libraries containing the knowledge of 100 civilizations, art galleries filled with beauty that made him weep, gardens where every flower sang in harmony with the wind. And gradually, reluctantly, Marcus began to care for her. But he wasn't the only one vying for Zara's attention. Kale was another ethereal, tall and aristocratic with the bearing of nobility. He had courted Zara for decades before Marcus's arrival, and he made no secret of his resentment toward the human interloper. "She demeans herself with you," Kale told Marcus one day when they encountered each other in the sanctuary's halls. "You're a primitive, a barely evolved ape. She deserves better." "Tell her that," Marcus replied, surprised by his own boldness. Kale's eyes flashed with anger. "Perhaps I will." That night, Zara came to Marcus's quarters as had become her custom. But something was different. She seemed distracted, troubled. "Is everything all right?" Marcus asked. "Kale has been persistent in his objections to our arrangement," she said carefully. "He believes I should choose an ethereal mate instead of relying on human genetics." "What do you think?" Zara was quiet for a long moment. "I think," she said finally, "that I no longer see you as just a genetic resource." It was the closest she'd ever come to expressing actual feeling for him. That night, for the first time, Marcus didn't resist when Zara reached for him. Their coupling was strange, electric, filled with alien sensations he couldn't have imagined. But it was also, undeniably, passionate. 9 months later, their first child was born. The infant was beautiful and terrible, clearly human in basic structure, but with Zara's golden flecked eyes and an otherworldly grace that marked her as something more. She was healthy, strong, showing signs of abilities that neither parent possessed. "She's perfect," Zara breathed, holding their daughter with something approaching wonder. Marcus felt a surge of parental love so intense it nearly brought him to his knees. "What's her name?" "Lyra," Zara said. "It means Song of the Stars in our language." But their joy was short-lived. Within days of Lyra's birth, Marcus began to notice things. Kale visited the sanctuary more frequently, always finding excuses to speak with Zara privately. Other ethereals watched Marcus with calculating expressions, as if measuring his worth. And Zara herself seemed increasingly distant. "Something's wrong," Marcus told Sarah during one of their clandestine conversations. "Everyone's acting strange." "You've served your purpose," Sarah said grimly. "You've proven that human ethereal hybrids are viable. Now they're deciding what to do with you." "What do you mean?" "Think about it, Marcus. They have your genetic material now. They have a successful hybrid child. Do they really need you anymore?" That night, Marcus confronted Zara. "What's going to happen to me now that Lyra's born?" Zara couldn't meet his eyes. "You will continue to live here, of course. The sanctuary is your home." "That's not what I'm asking." "Marcus, are you planning to kill me?" The silence stretched between them like a physical thing. "It's not my decision," Zara said finally. "Whose decision is it?" "The Council of Elders. They they believe that keeping too many humans creates unnecessary complications." Marcus felt ice form in his veins. "How many of us are they planning to eliminate?" "I don't know. The decision hasn't been made yet." But Marcus could see the truth in her alien eyes. The decision had already been made. The humans who had served their purpose would be disposed of, leaving only enough breeding stock to maintain the program. "And you're okay with this?" "I have no choice." Zara's composed mask finally cracked. "You think this is easy for me? You think I don't feel anything for you? I think you feel just enough to be guilty about murdering me." Zara struck him then, her palm cracking across his face with inhuman force. Marcus tasted blood. "You know nothing," she hissed. "Nothing about the pressures I face, the expectations, the centuries of tradition that bind me." "I know you're going to let them kill me," Marcus said quietly, "despite everything we've shared. Despite our daughter." Zara's composure crumbled completely. "My father leads the council." This was his plan from the beginning. Collect genetic material, breed hybrid children, then eliminate the human parents to avoid complications. "Your father?" "Elder Voss. He's the one who ordered your rescue, who arranged our mating. He's been planning this for decades." Marcus felt the final pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. "So everything between us was just part of the plan? Your seduction, our relationship, even your feelings for me?" "No," Zara said, and for the first time her voice broke. "That was real, all of it, which is why this is destroying me." "Then help me," Marcus pleaded. "Help all of us. We can find another way." "There is no other way," Zara screamed. "My people are dying. We need those children, and we can't risk humans interfering with their development." That night, Marcus didn't sleep. Instead, he slipped through the sanctuary's corridors, gathering the other humans who still retained their sanity and will to resist. "They're planning to kill us," he told them in whispered conference. "All of us except maybe a few breeding pairs." "What can we do?" asked David, a man who'd been there almost as long as Sarah. "They have all the power, all the technology." "We have something they need," Marcus replied. "Our children. The hybrids they've worked so hard to create. You're talking about using our own kids as hostages?" "I'm talking about survival." The plan they hatched was desperate and probably doomed, but it was better than waiting to be executed. They would take control of the nursery where the hybrid children were kept, threaten to harm them unless the ethereals agreed to negotiate. It was monstrous, but so was the alternative. The next night, they struck. Marcus used his access codes, privileges earned through months of cooperation, to reach the nursery wing. The other humans created distractions throughout the sanctuary, drawing the guards away from critical areas. The nursery was a marvel of alien technology, filled with cradles that hummed with life-supporting energy. 17 hybrid children slept peacefully within, the fruits of years of forced breeding. Marcus found Lyra's cradle and gently lifted his daughter. She woke and gurgled at him, her golden-flecked eyes bright with innocent trust. "I'm sorry, baby," he whispered. "Daddy has to do something terrible to keep us both alive." The alarms began to wail just as Marcus and the other humans secured the nursery. They had perhaps minutes before the ethereal guards arrived in force. "Marcus!" Zara's voice cut through the chaos as she burst into the nursery, flanked by armed ethereals. Her face was a mask of fury and anguish. "What have you done?" "What I had to do," Marcus replied, holding Lyra protectively against his chest. "We know about the Council's plan. We know you're going to kill us." "Release the children immediately," commanded a new voice. Elder Voss strode into the nursery, his ancient features twisted with rage. He was taller than even most ethereals, his silver hair flowing like liquid metal, his eyes burning with centuries of accumulated power. "No," Marcus said simply, "not until we reach an agreement." "You dare threaten the future of our race?" Voss's voice carried harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. "Your future is already threatened," Marcus shot back. "By your own arrogance and cruelty. We could have been partners. Instead, you chose to make us slaves." "You are nothing but genetic material," Voss roared. "Resources to be harvested for the good of a superior species." "And that," Marcus said quietly, "is exactly why this will never work." He looked at Zara, saw the pain in her alien eyes. "Did you know about your father's plan to kill us?" I I suspected," she admitted, "but I hoped—" "You hoped what? That love would somehow override centuries of ethereal supremacy?" "Yes," Zara whispered. "I did." The standoff stretched on for hours. More ethereal officials arrived, including other members of the council. Negotiations were tense, conducted through intermediaries, while Marcus and the other humans held their hybrid children as human shields. It was monstrous. It was necessary. It was the only leverage they had. "What do you want?" Voss demanded finally. "Safe passage home," Marcus said. "For all the humans who want to leave, and a new arrangement for any who choose to stay, as partners, not prisoners." "Impossible. The genetic program requires total control of the breeding process." "Then your genetic program dies with us," Marcus replied, "because I swear by everything I hold sacred, we will harm these children before we let you murder their parents." Voss's rage was incandescent, but he was also desperate. The hybrid children represented decades of work, the only hope for ethereal survival. "There must be another way," Zara said, stepping between her father and Marcus. "Some compromise that serves everyone's needs." "The only compromise is their death," Voss snarled. "Then you'll have to go through me first," Zara said quietly. The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Voss stared at his daughter in shock. "You would choose them over your own people?" "I would choose love over fear," Zara replied. "Cooperation over domination, a future built on partnership rather than slavery." "You're a fool," Voss said. "These creatures will betray us the moment they have the chance." "The way we've betrayed them?" Zara asked. "By promising salvation and delivering bondage?" The argument that followed was conducted in the ethereal language, too rapid and complex for Marcus to follow. But he could see the dynamics clearly enough. Zara challenging centuries of tradition, other council members wavering between fear and desperate hope. Finally, Elder Kale spoke up. Marcus recognized him as the ethereal who'd been courting Zara, whose resentment had been so obvious. I have an alternative proposal, Kale said, his voice smooth as silk. Why not simply take what we need? The children are already born. We can extract genetic material from the humans and then dispose of them. The breeding program can continue without the complications of keeping live specimens. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. You're talking about murdering us and harvesting our DNA. I'm talking about efficiency, Cal replied calmly. You're talking about genocide, Zara snapped. I'm talking about survival. Kyle's composure finally cracked. Your attachment to this primitive has clouded your judgment, Zara. You've forgotten what's at stake. I've forgotten nothing, Zara said coldly, including the fact that you've been sabotaging the breeding program from the beginning. The nursery fell silent. Everyone stared at Zara. What are you saying? Voss demanded. I'm saying that Kale has been deliberately causing genetic failures in the human breeding pairs, Zara continued. Half the miscarriages, the failed births, the hybrid children who died in infancy, they weren't natural selection. They were murder. Kale's alien features twisted with something that might have been panic. You have no proof of these accusations? I have genetic records, Zara said. Cellular analysis showing traces of toxins that could only have been introduced deliberately. I've been investigating for months. The revelation hit the assembled ethereals like a physical blow. Marcus saw shock, horror, and growing rage on their alien faces. Why? Voss asked, his voice barely a whisper. Because I couldn't bear to see our pure bloodline contaminated with primitive DNA, Kale said, abandoning all pretense. Because these hybrids are abominations that will weaken us, not strengthen us. You've doomed our entire species, another council member shouted. I've tried to preserve what we are, Kale shot back, before these animals reduce us to their level. The argument that followed was swift and brutal. Kale was surrounded, disarmed, restrained by his own people. His betrayal had cost them precious years, precious lives, precious hope. In the chaos, Marcus saw his opportunity. This is what your supremacy gets you, he said to Voss. Betrayal from within, sabotage by your own people. Maybe it's time to try something different. Voss looked older than his centuries, worn down by revelations and desperate circumstances. What do you propose? Partnership, real partnership. Some humans return to Earth as ambassadors, establishing a program for voluntary genetic donation. Others stay here as full citizens, not prisoners. The children are raised to understand both cultures, free to choose their own paths. And if your people refuse to cooperate, then we all die together, Marcus said simply, but at least we die free. The negotiation that followed took days. Terms were hammered out, compromises reached, safeguards established. It wasn't perfect, no treaty ever was, but it was a beginning. Marcus chose to stay on Ethereal, along with Zara and their daughter, not as a prisoner, but as an ambassador. Other humans chose differently, returning to Earth to establish the voluntary program. Elder Voss stepped down from the council, his leadership discredited by Kale's betrayal and his own failures. Zara took his place, becoming the youngest council member in Ethereal history. Kale faced trial for his crimes. The evidence of his sabotage was overwhelming. Decades of subtle poisoning, genetic manipulation, murdered hybrid children. He was sentenced to exile, cast out from ethereal society to wander the galaxy alone. But even as he was led away, Kale's eyes burned with unrepentant hatred. "This isn't over," he told Marcus. "Your mongrel offspring will never be accepted. Your primitive influence will poison everything you touch. And when this experiment fails, I'll be there to see the end of your pathetic species." Marcus watched him go with mixed feelings. The threat was gone, but the hatred behind it remained. There would be others like Kale, others who couldn't accept change. But there would also be those willing to try. 5 years later, Marcus stood in the sanctuary's garden, watching Lyra play with the other hybrid children. She was 5 now, tall for her age, with her mother's grace and her father's curiosity. Her golden-flecked eyes saw wonders that pure humans or pure ethereals might miss. "She's remarkable," Zara said, joining him on the garden path. She was visibly pregnant with their second child, her alien beauty softened by maternal contentment. "They all are," Marcus agreed. The hybrid children were thriving, bridging 2 worlds in ways their parents never could. "Any word from Earth?" "The program is exceeding all expectations. Over 100 volunteers in the first year alone." Zara smiled. "It seems humans are more adventurous than we gave them credit for." "And the Council?" "Still adapting. But they're beginning to see the benefits of cooperation over coercion." Marcus nodded, watching his daughter laugh with pure joy as she chased an alien butterfly through the flower beds. It wasn't the life he'd planned when he set out to photograph the aurora that night 5 years ago, but it was a good life built on choice rather than force. "Any regrets?" Zara asked quietly. Marcus considered the question. His old life on Earth seemed like a dream now. Solitary, safe, ultimately meaningless. Here, he was part of something larger, something that would echo through generations. "No regrets," he said finally. "Just hope for the future." Zara took his hand, her alien fingers intertwining with his human ones. "The future they're building will be extraordinary." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "Yes," he agreed, watching their daughter discover the wonders of 2 worlds. "It will be." As the 3 moons of ethereal rose in the lavender sky, casting everything in shifting shades of gold and purple, Marcus Chen reflected on the strange journey that had brought him here. A fall from a mountain ledge had become a leap into a new kind of existence. The covenant had been rewritten. The terms were different now, and for the first time since that night in Alaska, Marcus felt truly free to choose his own destiny. The story of humanity and the ethereals was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, conflicts to resolve, prejudices to overcome. But they would face them together, as partners rather than master and slave. Some rescues really were mercy. Some bargains really could be renegotiated. Some futures really were worth the terrible price of survival. The covenant of stars had been sealed not in desperation, but in hope, and that made all the difference.